Today's footage, we are going to be viewing the last of the footage for removing the ash tree stumps. These next couple were a little on the smaller side, and for the most part they came out fairly easy. And then there was one that actually didn't want to come up at all. I got a picture of the root ball. It was about all this little backhoe could do getting that guy out of the ground. Then we'll actually show a walkthrough. Admittedly, it's footage after sunset, but do a quick walkthrough to show the progress of this little driveway turn. The purpose of doing this is, I think I mentioned this last time, there's a super sharp turn, and this being wider and a much more gentle turn will allow trailers to come in much easier. So that'll be a pretty big benefit. Now this area of forest up here in the top left of the screen at the moment actually is where I'm going to be pulling a lot of clay and soil for projects in other parts of the property, and we'll pretty much let that get filled and become a little pond. The biggest challenge about that is going to be the need to dredge the bottom of it and make sure we don't have sediment. Well, we discovered that with our little duck pond up by the camper is after a winter of water constantly flowing. That one right there on the left. This is the one that fought. But anyway, the runoff coming through it just constantly deposited silt, and it ended up completely filling it in. It was about 6 feet deep when I first dug it out, and it had filled in. Let me go back a little bit. It was 6 feet deep and 30-ish feet long, and it was about 4 feet wide at the beginning. Then it had a little bit of a narrow, and then it had a good 15 or so foot chunk that was 4 to 6 feet wide, specifically to create a pond for ducks. And they sure loved it while we had them. But it was quite the surprise to see that the entire thing had filled in with sediment. So I had to dig that out so that we'd have a little bit of a pond again, and then we ended up getting rid of the ducks. So I'm not entirely sure if it will stay dug out. I'm meaning that after this winter if I'll dig it out again or not, but I guess we'll see. It'll depend on how quickly we can get other projects done and get to a point where we're not living in the camper anymore. That'll determine a lot of things. So at this point I realized that I needed to move, and even though I don't have the bucket on the tractor at the moment, I'm just trying to use the bottom brace of the forks to roughly smooth this out so I can at least drive on it and get the backhoe back into a position where I need it. I was actually kind of surprised. It worked fairly well. The bucket definitely would have worked better, but that's okay. You can see, like right there, that's a pretty big chunk of root that I just tore out of there. And that's how digging out tree stumps goes. Is you just dig and break some of the roots and dig and break some of the roots, and if you find some that don't want to give, you dig kind of along them to expose them. One of the reasons they have strength is because they don't have anywhere to go. So if you get rid of the soil on top of them, or sometimes around and beneath them even, eventually you can get them to shift enough that you can get them to snap. And if you look at that little pile of dirt in the bottom right corner of the screen at the moment, you can see I'm getting underneath that stump because I'm starting to pull out dry soil, dry clay. So that's this lighter color is all completely dry, which it still amazes me. These ash trees are pretty good at soaking up water. That's one of the reasons for knowing that we need the spot to collect some of the water on the property, is because there aren't many trees that can handle water like ash trees. At least not that will grow around here. We're too cold for a lot of the swamp trees that would be in like Florida and southern, Georgia and places like that. And the summers are too dry for a lot of those anyway. So the challenge is going to be trying to figure out which trees can handle high amounts of water, and making sure that they have the soil and water flow that they need. We'll end up probably with a fair amount of black cottonwood. Most people consider that a weed around here, but it is a good fast-growing tree. We'll probably plant some quaking aspen, because while they're also considered a weed, they're native to the area just slightly higher than us, and they should grow here pretty well if we can get the soil in areas to dry up just a little bit. We'll plant some western red cedars, although we'll see how well they survive over the next couple decades, because the climate changes that are, whether they're man-made or whether they're natural cycle, I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend to understand that. There definitely are climate changes, though. And in the last few years since we bought our property here, the western red cedars in the area have taken a huge hit. Lots of them in the area have been dying off the past couple of years because of the hot, dry summers. But we'll still try them. We might try planting some redwoods. They are not a native tree, but they might grow well. We'll get some Doug firs mixed in there. We'll definitely want some Oregon oak. That'll be a good one. We'll plant quite a few of that. And I mean, ultimately the goal is to just have a healthy, diverse forest down here that we can play in. And there will be some areas that that we'll be able to go, have a field for horses and things and whatever. One of the challenges of digging like this, even though I got it leveled a bit, and there goes that one, is that the backhoe doesn't like being uneven. It doesn't like digging when you're not pretty well flat. It actually makes it really hard as well, because then what you perceive as flat might not actually be flat. And so every now and again I would lift up one of the riggers and scoop some dirt under it, and then when I push it down, it packs that down underneath it, and I get a firmer position. This one actually turned out to be big enough that, as you saw, the the backhoe didn't really want to lift it very well, so I didn't do too much effort into trying to pick it up and drop it. The problem is now I'm back to this big guy. Now that those two are gone, though, I can get better angles. I was looking at it and decided I wanted to try from this direction again first, though. And it's just a matter of you got to keep finding where you can dig and remove what you can, and then that allows you to remove a little bit more and a little bit more. I currently am needing to fix one of the hydraulic lines on the backhoe, and I'm sure this stump removal didn't help the scenario with that, but I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't doing a project like this when I actually blew it. And this particular stump, now that it's loose, it's just a matter of, like, I couldn't pick it up out of the hole at all. So I'm trying to, like I said, just trying to break that dirt off. There's kind of a part of me that wants to, like, pressure wash all the mud off the root structure and then, like, I don't know, somehow seal it in epoxy or something and see if that would make a cool, like, then slab it to make like a coffee table type thing, like a round coffee table. I haven't done it. Obviously, I don't have anywhere yet to do any kind of epoxy like that, but someday one of these root balls might have that happen to it, because especially with these ash trees, since they have like roots that go everywhere, but they don't have a main taproot. And there's another one of those. This is another one of those times where I sure wish I had a hydraulic thumb instead of a mechanical thumb, but I think I've come to the conclusion that this little tractor just doesn't have the power, so even if I had a hydraulic thumb, I don't know that would have been very useful, because I would want it mostly when I'm trying to pick up something like this, and even without the hydraulic thumb, being able to smash it against this mechanical thumb doesn't work very well. It tries to let go, and so if I were trying to use the other hydraulics at the same time, I'm afraid it would have ended up just letting go. But I was kind of surprised. I did end up getting to drop this one a few times. Then I decided I wanted to share that with some friends, and then it let go. So I couldn't share that. I'll try again, and it let go again. You got to take some pleasure where you can, you know. Sometimes it's the little things that just make life bearable. But you can see how heavy the ball is, because I couldn't get it to stay. Like, it always wanted to land pretty much on the ball. So here's where I got a couple pictures, and we'll show you those here in a minute. Actually, I might as well load those up right now. So this first picture is just pretty straightforward. It's just a picture of the stump itself. Was just kind of trying to show how big it is. You can kind of see in the image there. There's a outrigger from the tractor. That plate for that outrigger is about, I want to say, 10 inches square for comparison. So that's a pretty good sized outrigger. Or, sorry, pretty good sized stump. And then here's the carnage from today's efforts. That is a very messed up section of ground. Regretfully, I forgot to charge the camera for the next day's work, where I actually got out here with the box blade and bucket and was able to level everything out. But I'll show you some footage here. After I finished everything up, I got off and used the work light as basically as a big wide flashlight, and just kind of walked around through the turn to show the progress. So for the most part, I think it turned out pretty well. Alright, I forgot to put the camera on the tractor today, so we'll just show the end result. This is the old original driveway. This is what I've been working on. You can see there's one stump left over here. All these stumps have filled in. I've started working on filling in this ditch that was dug. These areas here are still fairly soft, but they're pretty decent, considering they were like 5 feet deep this afternoon. It's a nice gentle turn. Should be nice and easy once we get some gravel down. It'll actually be a nice road. When you got a trailer on here, this will be much better than the old driveway was. Still have a fair amount of work. I need to put the scarifiers up and go over it a few times just to help smooth it out, and that'll help get rid of any chunks. Keep working on leveling everything, and yeah, but picking out all these rocks and root chunks and branches and all that stuff, that's been the goal for tonight. It's one of the ways I was able to fill things in where the deepest parts were, is I would, when you're using these things, the teeth tend to fill if there's a lot of debris. So you'll end up right here with a big pile of sticks and grass and roots and whatever, and then nothing gets past that to get in here and actually be leveled. So you back up, let it drop, and then drive forward over it, and then use the back blade and just kind of push it. And so I would push that off to the side, and then start box blading again. So that's where that is. And then I also came through and worked on smoothing this widening out, so the curve will be 16-ish feet wide at least, all the way through both sides of it. That's what we got for today. Sorry there wasn't footage of the actual process, but it's a nice quick video. So stay safe out there. Thank you for watching, and God bless you and yours.